Okay, there's a couple of things we need to do in order to start making our buttonhole. One of those things is we need to change the foot. So currently you're going to have a 0 or 1 presser foot on your machine, and how we take that off is we come over here to the side. There's a little lever. We lift that lever, pull down, make sure that's all the way down, and that presser foot will come right off. When you are trading out your presser feet, you need to bring this presser foot and you're going to put it. So let's say that I'm number 36. I'm going to leave my presser foot here when I come over to get my new presser foot, which my new presser foot is going to be in this box. It's a number 3, the buttonhole presser foot. I'm going to take it and grab it. Some of the presser feet have these little red things on there. Don't ever press that button, but if for some reason it comes off, we can simply put that presser foot back on and we're good to go. So I already have a presser foot. So I'm going to come over here, do that same thing, put my presser foot on, and now I'm ready to go. So my next step is I'm going to check the settings on my machine. I know that when I'm making a buttonhole, I need to have it set to the satin setting, which are these little lines right here. Everything else is set normally, stitch with 0, centered, and this needs to be on 1-2. Okay, so I've got my presser foot changed, my settings are good to go. Now I'm going to take my fabric and I'm going to line everything up. So as you can see, there's a little notch here in the side of our presser foot. So I'm going to line up the top of my eye with that notch, and then I'm also going to line up the center of my presser foot with this little dude right there with the center of my eye. So now I know that everything looks great. It looks good to sew. So I'm going to come over here and change my dial to 1. Okay, I'm going to go through the different steps. So as soon as I do step 1, it's going to sew down the side. And as you can see, as I change the dials, the width automatically changes. Everything else is going to change, okay, for those settings. So that's how I set it up to start sewing my buttonhole, and I'm going to show you the next steps in just a minute. Okay, so now I'm ready to start sewing my buttonhole for my button. So I have everything set up like before, so I'm going to change my dial to dial number 1, and I am going to start sewing. So I know that it's going to start making this bead, and the nice thing is the machine is going to move itself right along. If for some reason your machine isn't quite working, you can adjust the stitch length and it should move that. And it might take a time or two to get things just right. So I'm making sure that everything's looking really great. I'm going to sew all the way down. I'm going to go a little bit faster until the bottom of my eye reaches that point. So now I'm going to change to number 2, and it's going to sew all the way back up to the top. And I'm going to make sure that the top of my presser foot right here is going to line up with that eye again. All right, so I'm going to go, so there's step 1. And I noticed on mine I didn't make this side quite long enough, so I'm going to make that a little bit longer. That will make my life a lot easier. So the next thing I'm going to do, again, this is not perfect, so I'm going to get that lined up with the eye. So it's lined up back here again. So now I am going to change it to step number 3. And step number 3 is going to make a nice tack at the top. And I'm going to do that 7 or 8 times. Once I've done that, I'm going to change to 4. And it's going to just repeat that step and sew the next bead all the way down to the bottom. So I know you've already seen this, so we're just going to have it sew that nice bead so great. All right, until that line lines up again with my notch in my presser foot. So once I'm there, I'm going to change it to 5. It's going to repeat and do the bead at the end. I'm going to do it 6 or 7 times. Once I've done that, change to 6. And once it's done to 6, it's going to sew a little bead. I'm going to do that 4 or 5 times. Once I'm done, I'm going to change my dial back to 0, lift my presser foot, pull it out, cut my threads, and now I've got this awesome little buttonhole to work with, which I know it's going to work. So when I open that buttonhole, I'm going to take my pins, and I'm going to show you that in just a second. Now I'm going to open up my buttonhole, and how I do that is I'm going to take some pins. I'm going to come from the back of my fabric, come up to the front here. Okay, so you can see that my pin is going in like this. It's going to be easier for me to look at it and then show you. So I'm going to go in and up, and what I'm doing is I'm going to protect my buttonhole from from when we open it. So I've got my pins here. As you can see, they're protecting it. I'm going to take my seam ripper. Okay, always make sure you put the lid on the end. And I'm going to take that, I'm going to use it to open up that buttonhole. And when I have those pins there, can you see how it's stopping me from tearing through the top? I'm going to do that on the bottom, making sure that it's open. And I can take my pins out, and now I know that my button will fit through my little buttonhole. And it's so great, and it's so awesome. I know that you guys are going to be successful, and it's going to be great.